So I had never been asked this question, but do I go to church? The reason why I mentioned this is because after talking to some people about these topics that I post on YouTube concerning salvation of Israel, people start feeling the need to go to church. And it horrifies me. No, I don't go to church. And I'll explain to you why. We'll go ahead and get started and screen share here. All right. Let's first go to Revelation 3. And I'm not going to change the subject here. I'm going to get to the subject at hand, but I first of all have to cover this. Message to the church in Laodicea. What is a church anyway? Let's go look it up. Is it a building? Is it a chapel? Is it a sanctuary? No, it's not. An assembly, a congregation. Now, the word in Greek here is ecclesia. And I talked about this ecclesia versus synagogue back when Notre Dame was on fire. How this graven image of ecclesia and synagogue were on that particular building, and how it was an offense. It was boasting against the branches of Israel, and that the demise of Notre Dame portends the demise of the church. Now, am I saying that the Apostle Paul's work was in vain? No, I'm not. There will be many that he impacted that will be walking in, resurrected from the dead, and walking in side by side with the people of Israel in the last days. But the church, ecclesia, the Gentile church, has boasted against the branches, as Paul warned them not to in Romans 11. But right here in verse 14 of Revelation 3, it says, the angel to the congregation, ecclesia of Laodiceans, write these things, says the true, the faithful, true again, witness. Now says the beginning of the creation of Jehovah. Now, a lot of people go around and saying that he was before Adam. Not true. Let me show you something. Oh, hold on. You ever heard Paul talk about the second Adam? See this right here, 1 Corinthians 15:47. The first man, all right, hold on. I didn't forgot what verse it was. Hold on. 47, that's what it was. 47. The first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is of Jehovah, from heaven. So was he first or was he second? All right, I'm going to go back to Revelation 3. When it says the beginning of the first fruit of many brethren, and the promise in the beginning in the Garden of Eden, the promise to Eve. I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. He's speaking to the church in Laodicea. I would that you were cold or hot. Then because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew, vomit you out of my mouth. Why? Because you say, I am rich and increase with goods and have need of nothing, and you do not know that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. As I have said so many times before, this describes the current generation of Western civilization most accurately. But it says you are lukewarm. Lukewarm in what? In the ways of goodness and the truth. Goodness being love your neighbor as yourself, and the truth, the Messiah's name is Yehoshua. You see, all you have to do is just scroll up and look at this particular message to this particular congregation in Philadelphia. That was in Asia Minor, just like Laodicea was. And he says to the angel of the church in Philadelphia, write these things, says, he that is holy, he that is true, and he that has the key of David. What does the key of David open and close? The door to the kingdom in Jerusalem. And he opens and no man shuts, and shuts and no man opens. And I know your works. Look, I have set before you an open door. To what? Well, if he has the key of David and the key of David opens up the kingdom, what do you think it is? And what do you mean no man can shut it? Well, there are people in Israel today that would not want to open that door to Gentiles, at least. Certain Gentiles, they, like these latest Ethiopians, who were in a dire need. The Israelis went and rescued them because they claimed they were of the tribe of Dan. So the Israelis went and rescued them and brought them into their country to their detriment. It turns out they're no different than the sons of Pelesheth, who throw rocks and act like terrorists. But I digress. What I'm getting at here is, it says to this church, you have a little strength, this congregation, you have a little bit of strength, and you have kept my word, my statement, my speech. What was it? You shall love your neighbor as yourself. He said that anyone who breaks any of the least of these commandments and teach others to do so, he will be called least in the kingdom. And the whole of the law, the whole of the Torah is this: these two, you shall love Jehovah with all of your heart, your soul, and your might, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Now, if you're going to love Jehovah, your Elohim, with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and all of your might, you wouldn't insult his name, would you? Well, of course not. That's what I'm getting to right now. You have kept my word and have not denied my name. What is his name? Is it Jesus? 99.9% of Christianity calls their Messiah by that name. Most are absolutely ignorant, do not know any better, have been taught incorrectly by their preachers. Those preachers will be held accountable for that. But it is your duty to find out the truth. It is your duty to seek the truth on your own study time and not to sell yourself to some preacher who's going to tell you a lie, because you will be held accountable for that. You will be held accountable for selling yourself to the preacher. You have not denied my name. Synagogue of Satan, what is that? Well, many Christians, the majority of Christians today say that that is synagogue. Well, I will tell you, they're liars. Because Satan, the number of the beast, first of all, look at this word, Jesus. They claim, even in Wikipedia, they claim it is in reference to both Jesus or Jesus from ancient Greece or from Hebrew Yehoshua. Nothing can be further from the truth. Let me show you something again and again and again. Right here. XES is the number of his name, 666. It is impossible to get 666 in Yehoshua, and it is impossible not to get 66 in the original spelling of Jesus. Right there, the number of his name. Synagogue of Satan, folks. Here you go. Jesus. Satan. Of course, Satan is going to try to make himself appear as an angel of light. Of course he is. Now let's see what Paul has to say about this, about going to church. Wherefore, my dearly beloved, free from idolatry, should I go to, let me see if I can, I won't be able to find it here. Wherefore, my beloved, dearly beloved, flee idolatry. I speak as to wise men. You judge what I say. The cup of the blessing which we bless, is it not communion of the blood of Moshiach, not Christos? They added these names here. And the bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Moshiach, not Christos? For we, being many, are one bread and one body, and we are all partakers of that one bread. Look at Israel. Look at Israel as an example. If you can't do anything else, do what Paul said. Look at Israel as an example. Aren't they those which are partakers of the sacrifices at the altar? Don't they eat of the sacrifices at the altar? It says, look to them as an example. I'm going to show you what their example is. What do I say? So he says, look at them as an example. But what do I say? What does Paul say? Go to Strong's Concordance because it is rendered in a very strange way here. Because a graven image of a false god is a certain someone, or that because sacrificing to idols is or belongs or consists of anyone or anything. But I say that the things the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to Dahimanian, an evil spirit, and not to Jehovah. I would not that you should have fellowship. What? Share fellowship with that sort of thing? With devils. So no fellowship, folks. No fellowship with churchianity as we know it today. None. Zero. You cannot drink of the cup of Jehovah and the cup of demons. You cannot be partakers of Jehovah's table and the table of devils. Do we provoke him to jealousy? Do we think we are stronger than he? And that goes right back to Revelation 3. You think you're great because you say, I'm rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing. I don't need you. And you don't know that you're wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. So, what do I take from the words of Paul? Well, Paul said, look at the example of the Jews. Do they go? Do they go and bow down before that graven images and sing to Jesus or Jesus? No, they wouldn't dare. Not the religious ones. Not the ones who go to synagogue. Neither will I. I'm going to read a little bit example of this, myjewishlearning.com. Question: my friend invited me to midnight mass with him on Christmas Eve. Can I go if I just sit quietly and don't pray? And what if he invites me to come again on Easter? David from Queens. Answer: I'm impressed that you think you can sit quietly through an entire mass, David. I can hardly sit quietly for a 15-minute mincha. As with most issues of Jewish law and theology, there is a difference of opinion when it comes to whether or not Jews can enter a church. Be it for cultural reasons, for example, to view a famous work of art, or for religious ceremony, for example, to attend the baptism of a friend's child. This difference of opinion is predicated on a disagreement about whether Christianity should be considered idolatry. The Torah and subsequent rabbinical literature are full of prohibitions concerning idolatry and interaction with those who practice idolatry. Now, I'm not even going to talk about the Talmud because what I'm concerned about was written in the Torah. Okay? Now, why am I saying that? Well, because Paul said the same thing. Paul said exactly this. Now, right here, among other things, this means avoid trading. Well, this is according to the Talmud. Among other things, means avoid trading with him. Well, you can't possibly avoid trading with them. Dressing like them, eating with them, worshiping, or even near them and entering their places of worship. Yes, I do interact. Do I dress like them? Well, some would say I do. I would say, no, I don't. Because you would never catch me up until about 4 or 5 years ago, I would say, with a suit and tie on. You'll never see me with one on. Ever. It says, because the Trinity is the core of Christianity and because it implies a God is more than a single entity, there are those who consider Christianity equal to idolatry. Yes, that is correct, because as is written in the prophets and in Moses, there is only one. There is no other. The Creator is not Jesus. I don't care what anybody says. The Creator, the one who created Adam, is the Father, Jehovah, and the one who created Yehoshua, Messiah, is Jehovah, our Father in heaven. I will show you. And how did he form him? Isaiah 49, verse 5. Just to make sure, hold on, that your preachers do not deceive you. Listen, O coastlands, to me. Listen to you people from far that are at a distance. Jehovah has called me from the womb. This is a prophecy, something to happen in the future of Isaiah. From the bowels of my mother, he has made mention of my name. And that is exactly what happened. And this is a prophecy of Luke chapter 1. When he was given a name, he was not given the name Jesus. It was Yehoshua, which means Jehovah is salvation. The very name Yehoshua gives honor and glory to the Father. That is why getting the name right is so important. That means you are hot. Right here. Revelation 3. He says, I know your works, that you're neither cold nor hot. Well, he didn't say that about people of Philadelphia, did he? Why? 2 reasons. They kept his word. And the second reason, which is no less than the first, is they did not deny his name. To deny the name of Yehoshua is to diminish the glory of our Father in heaven, whose name is Jehovah. It is to diminish it and make it unholy. That's part of where the lukewarmness comes in. And so when I explain to people these things concerning the name of Jehovah and Yehoshua, why it is so important to say Yehoshua and not Jesus, you would think that people would be, how do I say this? Offended, irate, angry that they were deceived about this, that they were caused to blaspheme. They were deceived into blaspheming, into diminishing the name of the Father by switching to the name Jesus. But I don't see a whole lot of anger about that. I don't see a whole lot of indignation, righteous indignation. I don't see it. When I found out about it, what the name Jesus meant, I was angry. I have a witness. I went directly over to my mom and dad's house and I talked to my dad about it. I was angry and furious. I don't see any such anger. I'm not saying I'm better than others. What I'm saying is, you're not better than me. And I'm saying, Paul was saying, you're not better than the Father. Right here. Do we provoke Jehovah to jealousy? Are we better than he is? So don't sit here and say, because Henry calls you out for being nonchalant about the name of Jehovah and Yehoshua, that I'm saying that I'm somehow better than you. No, the shoe is on the other foot. Paul says, you think it's even worse than you think that you're better than me. Paul says you think you're better than the Father himself. If you go and enter one of these places and sit down and eat at the table of devils, you think you're better than Jehovah, our Father in heaven. This is what Paul is implying right here in verse 22. So no, absolutely not. I will not go to church. I'll repeat it again. I will not ever go to church. Period. End of subject.